Yes, why?
Okay, I was just going to do a little tidying up. Not do anything that involves loud noise.
Well, your definition of loud noises is quite different than mine.
I won't do anything that involves quiet noise either.
Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorene. We are back home. The last week of travel was something I just want to forget. And maybe I'll tell you that story one time. But anyways, it was hopefully forgettable. And what's happening right this very second is that the air is cool and beautiful, and it's a quiet Sunday morning, so not too much street noise, I hope. And Steve says he's going to do some tidying in the kitchen quietly, but... So what's happened is we piled all of our books into this box in order to get them out of the van. Let's see if I can do that for you. Sorry. Okay, that's where editing comes in. Okay, an aerial view. Everything is in that box. Everything in that box is both from when we, packed up in the beginning just to get onto the plane to the last bookstore stop. And so I'm just going to pull them out, show them to you quick. And then hopefully I have enough time to do an actual book review by the end of it. But, we'll find out. If I have my brain on right, then I will put a list of the bookstores that we visited in the doodly-doo below. But to try and tell you which bookstore things came from as I go, I think that that's just not how my brain works. This is a book that I picked up in Almonte, and it's really hard to show you the books without telling you the backstory, but I just want to talk about books right now. I got in the house, was it yesterday? What day did we get in the house? Was it yesterday? No, the day before we got in, on Friday. And yesterday I picked this book up, and I just read it for the whole 8 hours. I didn't get out of my pajamas. I was just so, do not want to move. And this was a great book. It's a new to me mystery series, and I am going to talk about it soonish. And Steve was reading Thomas Pynchon, The Crying of Lot 49. He really does need to get his own channel and talk about his own books. Or else we should just have a Steve special every once in a while. So no idea what it's about. We're still reading The Night Gardener in the evenings, and we're pretty close to the end. It's starting to get tense. We know who the Night Gardener is, and we know that it's going to be crazy to solve it. And we're going to hopefully finish it in the next couple of nights, but continue to recommend this. The Daphne du Maurier book, Hungry Hill. I purchased it just before we started to get into some... of the stories that I'm not telling you about. I just couldn't bring myself to read it. Look at the size of that font. It was like, oh no, this will take forever. And I'm not sure, mostly I'm not going to enjoy it just because of the size of the font, which is, I guess, just a new stage of life, right? So anyways, I probably will. This is a book that's going to have to be more or less like on the bedside table where I can just pick it up and read it without having to think too much. But okay, this book was really important. British Columbia and the Canadian Rockies was used multiple times to help us figure out what we were doing. Light by Margaret Elphinstone. I believe I spoke about that for a regular review. Wilder Lore, The Accidental Apprentice by Amanda Foody. The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. I don't know if I talked about this one. One of the things I'm going to have to do is go back and watch my own videos because they were just done so ad hoc. And I don't have my journal book with me, so I really don't know what I spoke about in what videos. Ladies of the House by Lauren Edmonson, a modern retelling of Sense and Sensibility. Ruth Ware, The Death of Mrs. Westaway. I did enjoy this. But I had thoughts. Okay, this is the one I've been holding off. I have to start reading this one immediately because I believe my book club is talking about it somewhere in the next 7-8 days. So that's on my to-do list. But it's a murder mystery and it's supposed to be really haunting. And you know what? Every time I sit down to start a murder mystery, I quite often do it at breakfast time. And there's almost always a dead body. And you just can't do Cheerios and a dead body. So, this is a recent purchase. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, book 1 of the Emily Wilde series, a novel by Heather Fawcett. Now, I really enjoy Heather Fawcett, and I think this is a book that might cross age, but I'm not sure yet. It was in the younger readers book, not the young adults book. So, but this is also a book club choice, and I guess I probably have to have it ready by the middle of mid-June. Eric Newby, yeah. And not to say yeah about the book, but just that I think I've held it up before. All right. This book turned out to be not as useful. Best Road Trips in Canada, Escapes on the Open Road. Had some impact in our travel choices, but not a ton. I think it mostly, the biggest thing that informs your travel choices is where are the roads and which ones will kill us and which ones will nourish us. And so somebody needs to write a book about that, because let's face it, the Trans-Canada, although it's absolutely a brilliant road and a brilliant asset of the country, it's a difficult road to be on for hours and hours. Okay, what happened here? Rome, talked about that one quickly. Steve read it, really enjoyed it. Bringing Back the Beaver, the story of one man's quest to rewild Britain's waterways, by Derek Gow. Now, I heard about this one, I think by radio BBC. I'm not too sure because I don't often get BBC. Anyhow, they're reintroducing the beaver into England, and it's supposed to make a big difference to the flooding problems that they have. And I don't think it's going to be like a deeply penetrating book, but I just thought, how are they doing that? We've got a small piece of land in Nova Scotia, like it's not even a half acre, and the neighbors are forever swearing and cursing about the beavers. So I don't know why you would want a beaver. The other one I picked up, and I'm really happy about this one, is Moon of the Turning Leaves by Wabashig Rice, and it's the second book. What was the first one? Probably says Moon on the Crusted Snow, and that was the one about the pandemic or something that caused a whole First Nations community to basically abandon the community. So this is the continuation of that. I have high hopes for it, and I don't think it's on any of my book club book choices. It should be. Okay, everything else in here are just things like atlases and... Oh no, Steve picked up this one. The 500 Years of Indigenous Resistance comic book by Gord Hill. I guess he said he wanted it for Christmas, but I think, is today Father's Day? Maybe I'll give it to him for Father's Day, even though he bought it himself. We generally don't do that kind of thing, you know. We generally don't do Mother's Day and Father's Day, and so he won't be surprised by my being a smartass. All right, so how much time did that take? Not too badly. I want to talk to you about... There's another book that I read that I thought I could talk about. Maybe I actually didn't get everything from the van in. Ruth Ware, The Death of Mrs. Westaway. I really liked her writing style. It's an interesting plot. I liked the tension. There was a lot of tension in terms of young girl Hal Westaway, but her full name is Harriet, so she's called both. She is named in a will. Mrs. Westaway has died and has named Hal the main beneficiary. And so they, rest of the family are kind of stunned. They had expectations. there's a couple of odd things that are happening in it, I think. They seem, on the one hand, really peeved that she's going to be the main beneficiary, but on the other hand, they don't seem particularly outraged, because Mrs. Westaway, who was the mom of there's three brothers and one sister who has sort of gone missing and just gone out of the picture, and Harriet is connected to this missing sister. And so there was this weird family dynamic I didn't entirely understand, because some people were just automatically, oh wow, you're our grandchild, our niece, that kind of whoa acceptance, and then there's one or two who are like, why are you getting in the way of our money? But nobody really played the villain, and yet there seems to be villainous things afoot. There's a missing sister, as I say, that needs to be sorted out. It's a good mystery. There's a good turnaround. The person who is the villain was a bit of a surprise. That's always nice. But the part I didn't love was the main character, Harriet, because she just accepted blame for something that I thought, I don't know, as a 25-year-old, you can get kind of emotionally into your head and overthink and overstory. I mean, we can do that until we're in our 90s. But she's had enough things happen in her life that that kind of self-blame just... There's other things that have happened that should make it clear that she's not the author of some of these disasters. And she continues to be this sort of self-reflective, oh gee, I shouldn't have done this, oh gee, I shouldn't have done that, like way too long into the book. And so as she makes decisions to either try and change things or patch things up, she still keeps going back to that first initial, oh, I shouldn't have done that piece. And like even as we're getting to the ending, she's still doing this self-blame part. And I found that really annoying. She was not a character that I embraced, but I embraced the mystery. So I'm not sure. Probably I would read another Ruth Ware, but I would kind of lower my expectations in terms of the characters. The characters didn't really grow or develop, but then do they in a mystery? Do they in a mystery? Good question. So sort of a little bit ambivalent about this one. And it was certainly a good read for when I was kind of, well, every day we were in a new place. So there was lots of changes every single day. And so it was a good one to just keep turning back to, because, nothing too much. You could easily recapture the story. It wasn't one of those kinds of mysteries where you have to stay tight attention to. Ladies of the House, I picked this up in one of the park interpretive centers had a bench where you could take a book, leave a book kind of thing. And so I picked up Ladies of the House. Actually, that's where the Ruth Ware came from too. I took 2 books, only left one. And it's supposed to be this warm, witty, modern spin on Sense and Sensibility, a sensational debut. And so for those of you who want a Jane Austen interpretation, this might be up your alley, but I just couldn't get into it. I think partly because they are from such a hugely privileged family that the father has really screwed them over, and in his death they are like facing catastrophe. But at the same time, the characters, I don't know, they just seemed so not in their own lives. They didn't seem to be connecting to me emotionally. So I think that from a plot point of view and a setting point of view, it's in Washington, D.C. It involves politics. I think if you like that kind of setting, and if you liked the Sense and Sensibility plot line, I think you will like this. But I struggled to get into the characters. I love this book. I mean, of all the books I've read while we were traveling, oh, you know what? I missed 3. There was the daughter of Dr. Moreau, which I did talk about. That's back in the house. Oh, My 3 by Susan Juby. Talked about that. Still love it. Right, the Arthur, King of the Middle March. Yes, we have to do something with that one. That's a to-do book. I'm going to see whether it's actually, after I picked it up, I thought, I wonder if that's the wrong series. So I'll find out in a little while. And The Black Joke, which I did speak about as a read aloud, and Farley Mowat in general. And still, I would say that this was for sure one of the top reads while we were gone. In its way, Light was really quite a good book, but I'm not sure I talked about the ending. I think I was sort of midway through when I spoke about it. And the ending, boy, I wish someone else had read this at the same time as me, because I would love to talk about the ending. Was it absolutely the right ending for this book? Or was it something that made you want to go out and just kick a wall? Bruise your toes. I think it's one of those kinds of endings. And so if anybody's read this and has thoughts about how it ended, because we don't want to spoil it, maybe you can talk to me in the messages and just say what you think. But I was so satisfied and annoyed simultaneously with the ending. Okay, back to this one. The Crossing Places by Ellie Griffiths. Now, when we were in some distress, we went into a bookstore, which is, I'll go into a bookstore no matter what my emotional setting is. And they had a couple of really interesting marketing things happening on the shelves, which one was I can't remember exactly the phrasing that they had used, but it was like old mystery new to you kind of thing, where you would if you've missed this mystery series, you're really missing something really good, that kind of pull in. And excuse me, this one is not as old. I think it wasn't Agatha Christie that they were promoting, but it was something, from the 50s or 60s that they were promoting. This is a more modern series, and there's probably about 12 on the shelf. And so it's a new to me mystery series, and it was really, I don't know, just the way they had phrased it and the way they had put it on the shelves and just the marketing around it was really intriguing to me. And I thought, I'm going to take a chance on this one. And I'm not generally a purchaser of mystery novels. You tend to go through them quite quickly. And so, but on the other hand, I was looking for something this was exactly the right thing at the right time. And we have got The Crossing Places, which takes place in the more sort of the Somerset salt marshes in England. And so we've got this big moor that goes out onto the tides, which are also fairly shallow, and then you've got the sea on beyond that. And so depending on how the weather comes and the winds and so forth, you can get a tide that's kind of stays at the seaside, or you can get one that comes really far into the marshes and the moors and everything. And so you get these really odd spots, which sometimes they're dry and sometimes they're deep pools, and you get that kind of landscape that's actually full of pitfalls and mysterious pathways. And then of course you get the winds and you get the howlings of wind as it goes over things and around things and changes the noises, and there's all kinds of birds that have got whoop kind of bird calls. And so visually and auditorially and smell wise, in terms of the salt and the kelp and all that, it's really a beautiful beautifully drawn place. And we've got an archaeologist, her name is Ruth, and she has been part of a dig 10 years prior with henges. I guess henges are really just circular places, and they can be stone or they can be wood. So this was a wooden one, and because of all the peat, it had been preserved. And so when she was a student, archaeologist student, she participated in the research for that particular dig, and she loved it. So she came back, she buys a house there, and she is teaching archaeology at the local university. And everything seems pretty cool, except all of a sudden a young girl has gone missing. And some bones are found, and she is asked to identify whether it's the young child that's gone missing or, just older bones. And it turns out to be an Iron Age maiden, and the mystery just, takes off from there. And there's a police officer, Nelson, who's kind of a big anti-hero. He's like over big, he's over sloppy, he's kind of impatient and a bit of a bully, and so that you get this academic against this really bigoted, I don't know what you want to call him, like troglodyte. and they have some really cool interactions. And so there's a missing girl from 10 years ago, and there was a missing girl from just a few months earlier, and then there's this Iron Age young girl who's been discovered as the search for the two contemporary girls goes on. And so there's all this kind of tying together of questions about how the landscape affects the burial rites, and the archaeology is quite interesting, and we don't spend a whole lot of time at a dig. That's because I've been on a few books where we spend a lot of time digging. No, this is a much more action-packed. I really liked Dr. Ruth Galloway. She was a really interesting character. She's got a mind of her own. She's in a world where it's male-dominated, and so how does she kind of navigate that with integrity? She's got heroes that she's looked up to, but now she's starting to question some of the things that happened during her university days. So there's just a lot going on, and she's got some interesting neighbors who add a lot of color to the story. So I think overall, it was just really, really a good book. And like I say, I got in, put on some clean pajamas, and just sat down and read. And I read for probably, I don't know, maybe it was 6 hours, maybe 8, something like that. Anyways, I finished it in a day. For those of you who have got nothing else to do but sit down and read a book, this is possible. And I am going to go to my own local bookstore and get the follow-up, the next one. See how far it takes me. So that's it for me right now. I'm so glad to be home. I'm so glad to be in clothes that aren't, completely wrinkled and smelling kind of musty, and just, there's so much that's good to be home. It was a really, really good trip. As Steve said, there were some parts that were just extraordinary and other parts that were just harrowing. And it's the harrowing part I'm just kind of trying to let go of. And I've got the kind of memory where there's lots of stuff that I forget. And I am going to make a concerted effort to forget the bad stuff and remember the good stuff. Usually my brain plays the other way, but we're doing it. We're going to get rid of the bad stuff. And, nothing was a complete disaster. Nobody died. Nobody was in a hospital. But it was like the whole time we're driving in the last sort of 10 days, it's like, I hope nobody dies. I hope nobody goes in the hospital. It was that kind of a trip. So, we will continue to talk about books here at the bottom of the stairs. And I look forward to kind of getting back to normal. And there probably won't be any more nature shots for a while, because the other big exciting thing is we'll be digging up the backyard starting in the next 10 days somewhere. So all my local nature is going to be in wheelbarrows. I'll show you as we go along. I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true, and that it's not a heat wave where you are, and everything's copacetic. Take care. Bye-bye.